Hi again. In John Wesley Bready, This Freedom Whence, page 327 in the chapter Christendom Whither Bound, and he has a subhead with a word that we don't use much anymore, is Christianity a feat? What does he mean? Well, he's writing this from the vantage point of about 1940, just before the mess of World War II, the disaster that claimed at least 55 to 65 million people's lives. So he's taking on the trends of the between war culture of the West. What are those trends? In the ponderous elaboration of his economic determinism and materialistic philosophy, Karl Marx assumes throughout that all religion is humbug, a priest-concocted anodyne, a pernicious opiate designed to stupefy the masses into servility, that they may be more easily exploited by the usurping capitalist. Morality and law, Marx dashes overboard in the same grandiose style. Law, morality, religion, reads the manifesto of the Communist Party, are to him, the communist, so many bourgeois prejudices, behind which lurk in ambush just so many bourgeois interests. As for the ideal of the Christian family, Marx, for all his top-heavy learning, has no clearer conception of what it is, or means, than a Hottentot. So, branding it also bourgeois hypocrisy, he casts it contemptuously aside. Our bourgeois, he writes, not content with having the wives and daughters of their proletarians at their disposal, not to speak of common prostitutes, take the greatest pleasure in seducing each other's wives. Bourgeois marriage is in reality a system of wives in common. Back to Bready. Excuse me. The man who solemnly could prescribe to the proletariat such patent falsehood, such pernicious poison, is an inherent part of his revolutionary science, had great need to dismiss all religion as a soporific. That dogma was essential to his purpose. His hypotheses compelled him to beg the case. Consequently, he will hear of no relation between Christianity and social justice. For instance, Christian socialism, avers the manifesto, is but the holy water with which the priest consecrates the heart-burnings of the aristocrat. In Marx's bulky, belabored work, Das Kapital, the same attitude is equally pronounced. Pride, hatred, jealousy, revenge, and flagrant atheism parade through every chapter, while by inference Marx substitutes his economic, materialistic, and scientific omniscience for God. Much of his argument, moreover, Voltaire fashion, reduces itself to assumption, aspersion, and innuendo, as when glibly he asserts that, quote, the Anglican Church will more readily pardon a tax upon 38 of its 39 articles than upon 1/39 of its income, end of quote. Yet this is but representative of many of the facts, and facts is in quotation marks, facts adduced in support of his revolutionary proposition, which Engels, Marx's collaborator, predicts is destined to do for history what Darwin's theory has done for biology. Pure religion embodies the highest and most sustaining aspiration known to man, but that the highest, if prostituted, may degenerate into an unlovely and nauseating thing, exhibiting the properties of an opiate, who will deny? Furthermore, that religion, including certain perversions of Christianity, has, at some times and in some places, been so prostituted, is beyond dispute. It may be that the economic and atheistic gospel of communism, through its clamor for social justice, will yet prove a thorn in the side of Christianity, the spirit onto greater unity and higher purpose and more Christ-like expression of its faith. But such speculation is beyond our field. The backgrounds, origin, and evolution of the evangelical revival, as well as certain of its fruits, we now have briefly surveyed. If the religion mediated through that revival is to be designated an opiate, then all relationship between cause and effect has departed. The meaning of words is gone, and logic is dead. But sinister and devastating as have been the assaults of Marxist class hatred and no-God disciples, the barren, negative assumptions of those who have long been posturing as the intelligentsia of Christendom have injected into current society a still more blighting and paralyzing infection. Thus far, the 20th century has been dominated by a soulless rationalism and an agnostic humanism, which, having conjointly usurped the seats of authority, have striven to impose an intellectual dictatorship over the minds and spirits of men. And already their fruits are manifest. Emancipated man, in his worldly wisdom, knowing not God, has endeavored to establish himself as God, and having mastered the laws of many scientific phenomena, has succeeded in bringing into being an imposing array of gadgets and devices and things. But now these things are threatening destruction to their maker. Now he's writing this before the atomic revolution, before the bomb was invented, apparently. This is around 1938 he's writing. Increasingly, civilized society has been finding itself in the position of a reckless sorcerer, unable to control the powerful robots which, by the wand of science, it has conjured up to do its bidding. Secularism, rationalism, and humanism have penetrated and mastered not a few mysteries of the physical world. Mechanisms, they have enormously enlarged and improved. Man's reach they have so extended as almost to make plausible the fabulous magic carpet and 7-league boots. But his grasp on ultimate reality they have paralyzed. Glutting the body, they have starved the soul. Hence the inevitable nemesis, as they pause and ask themselves, is not this great Babylon that we have builded? A taste of dust and ashes arises in the mouth. As they behold their modern Tower of Babel, whose top was to reach unto heaven, they are becoming conscious not only of a confusion of tongues, but of a confusion of spirit. Already they hear a cracking in the foundations. Science, which they enslaved to their ambitions to make them a name, is working overtime, not to create the means of culture, but the contraptions of death. And paradox of paradoxes, all this is being done by rationalized, secularized, humanized peoples for the advance of the civilization they have builded. When man denies God and sets about to exalt himself, he is but tugging at his bootstraps, and so sinks the deeper in the mire. Kant, that's Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, having in his Critique of Pure Reason demolished all the rational arguments for the existence of God, later, as a practical man, postulated the existence of God, the immortality of the soul, and the freedom of the human will. For these are the bread of life. Modern sophisticated rationalism, which, like 18th century deism, increasingly has issued in cynicism, frustration, and failure, might well contemplate the insight of Cowper, the initial poet of the evangelical revival, who said in one of his poems, "Learning itself received into a mind, by nature weak or viciously inclined, serves but to lead philosophers astray, where children would with ease discern the way." What would Bready make of our woke generation? Have we learned nothing then from Genesis? You can be like God, knowing good and evil, was the original temptation, and to that temptation, in Brady's generation, millions had already succumbed. But now it's on the surface. It's no longer bubbling under. I'll put in a link to a essay by Dorothy Sayers. We have a playlist, by the way, of Dorothy Sayers, and one of the essays is on barbarism. Barbarism is not in the past. It's bubbling under all the time. And she makes the case, back up around the same date as Bready, that the progressive faith is just totally naive. See you soon.